Namaskar. Hello and welcome to Daily Global Insights by Sree and Sree. Today is April 5th, 2021, and this is episode number 134. Today is a holiday for many, but we at PGurus are hard at work. A lot of things are happening around the world. Before I turn it over to Sridharji, here are the main points. In India, Australia, and Japan are going to be meeting. The foreign ministers of these three countries are going to be meeting on April 13th. Now, it is believed that John Kerry and Russia's foreign minister, both of them are going to be in India on the same day. So, how do you read this? This is important because I don't want to go through further that the three foreign ministers are meeting. We are also doing quad exercises together. And now I'm hearing that John Kerry and Russian foreign minister are going to be there at the same day.
I think it puts to tacit test the diplomacy and the diplomatic skills of India. It also emphasizes the strategic importance of the geopolitical anchoring that is kind of going on. Kerry is in India to discuss climate and the Paris Accord and support from India. The Russian foreign minister is there, I don't know, to stir the pot because of the S-400 and the AK-47 rifles deal that he wants to do, or whether he has got interest in delivering some message from the Chinese. We don't know, so that you got that. As far as the strategic agenda is concerned, it's very clear. India, France, and Australia is concerned. With Japan kind of tagging behind. This is a very specific Indo-Pacific effort where both India and Australia have strategic interest in the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. So therefore, that agenda is very clear. So the Bay of Bengal, the La Perouse, which is the French named exercise that is currently underway in Bay of Bengal, and that will then extend into foreign ministers meet in terms of broadly determining the strategic arrangements in the region. India has logistical arrangements with France, and India has logistical arrangements with Australia. So that's how I kind of read the situation.
And in United States news, Chris Christie says Biden is a liar and a hypocrite for the election law rhetoric. Now, this election law is now being debated. It's one of the hottest debated topics in United States. Sir, now people are taking sides and mostly they are taking along partisan, except that there seems to be some disagreements within the Democratic Party itself. Ilhan Omar says one thing and Stacey Adams is saying something. So what do you make of this whole process? We had a detailed hangout yesterday, viewers. You can see that too for more details. What do you make of the new developments, sir?
I think the new developments is basically what is going on here is around votes. This is very much like the Indian politics. It is vote bank politics. That's all it is. There's nothing to do with discrimination. There's that. Of course, people will rationalize and argue specific communities were targeted and were deprived or were denied the opportunity to vote by virtue of practices that prevail. But when you actually see the present rule of law, it very clearly lays out that everybody has an opportunity to kind of vote. So what's going on here is around the posturing that is going on amongst the various people. Democrats there is an internal war going on between the progressive and non-progressives. So this progressive seems to be led by AOC, Yilman, and so on, whereas the non-progressive who are genuinely fighting, with due respect, which I agree, people like Stacey Abrams and so on, they are genuinely fighting for the cause of the African American kind of community. We have been neglected, we have been chosen. We should be given kind of the access. So you got this issue going on. With regard to the specific point that you made, which is namely partisan, repeatedly polls have been conducted, and they say, and you can kind of validate, close to 74% of United Americans believe that there has to be a fair, just, and consistent process. Okay, if you need to expand something, but there has to be a fair, just, and consistent process that is applied so that the elections can be conducted fairly and rationally, and an outcome can be obtained.
And on this immigration news, there are a lot of people now weighing in with their comments. Chad Wolf says lack of enforcement, accountability, and willful intent behind migrant surge. I'm just going to add one more thing, sir, from AG Paxton. Open borders has cost Texas billions of dollars. And Barrasso says the easiest way to get into US is illegally, fully funded package. So these three together looks like now, I hope that these people will apply the brakes. What is going on, sir?
I don't know whether they're going to apply brakes. I think over the weekend, Biden announced that he's going to pay some $800,000, and these, 4 or 5 families are going to be put together in hotels. They're going to be located in hotels. There's illegal fellows coming in. And now also they've opened up they've requested Army to open the third center to put these kids. So that's why I use the word, it's coming with a package. So in other words, you come in, get into the bus, bring you on board. Then if you don't have accommodation, we'll give you the accommodation, and then we'll integrate you into the communities. So it's a full on-suite package. There's a message to the Indians because all this, H-1B and green card and waiting and so on, all they have to do is, get onto the other side of the border and then, say, hey, make a case. Look, I'm a guy, I'm not, I'm looking for a job, allow me in. Everybody else is coming in. It seems to be the way we are going.
And again, this is just a comment. Don't take our word for it, and we don't know what will be the other consequences. But we're just seeing the ludicrousness of the situation. The ex-New York Police Department Commissioner Ray Kelly says that Mayor de Blasio has destroyed New York City. So this is something that we need to do a special episode on how New York is becoming, a mess. From what I'm hearing and seeing, and you live right there in the middle of all this stuff, you must be facing, I don't know what to describe, but we should probably do a separate segment on this, sir.
Separate segment. There's only one, the crime rate has increased quite dramatically. Crime rate has increased dramatically across the country, is extraordinarily high, especially after the defund police activities. The law and order has gone berserk. We have one more challenge, which we were discussing, in the family. Now we can smoke marijuana in the streets. It's allowed in Manhattan. It's allowed in New York. So you can't kind of stop them. So it's now legal.
And Kansas GOP ends state mask mandate after the Democratic governor has extended it. So now you have these battles between the state Congress and the state governor, especially if they are on the opposite sides.
Well, I think that's what is happening. Gun laws, the tax laws, tax laws, then this the issue around the immigration, the issue around the funding. You are now beginning to see, classic cluster of bits and pieces of disintegration that's happening. So the states are enacting, so they may not implement, especially at least in the red states. So we are beginning to see the law assert kind of itself. And eventually, I think that United States is a country that compromises. Eventually, there will be some sanity that kind of will come in. After this insanity kind of lasts maybe for a month or 2 months or so, then we may begin to see some kind of normalcy slowly coming back.
And the GOP lawmakers call for end to Major League Baseball antitrust laws. What are these antitrust laws, sir, and how does the situation change?
I think the antitrust laws is effectively, basically, it gives them kind of preferential, it gives them the rights to do what they have done, as you can see. They unilaterally made a cancellation of the kind of, so if you remove some of these provisions, then you have to go through a due process. You can't kind of arbitrarily remove, which has cost close to $100 million, according to state of Georgia, as a result of the games. So they all take shelter under these antitrust laws, which is namely you can't enforce something and you have the freedom to apply the rules as you see appropriate. So I think you will begin to see that they're going to review some of these laws and conditions where you can apply this indiscriminately.
I'm just thinking loud here, sir. The state of Georgia has within its purview to sue Major League Baseball for loss of revenue or breach of contract if in case there is a specific wording that says that, if there is a voting law change, then we can pull it out. If there is no such thing, then they may be on strong ground there.
Oh, I think that there were lawyers in the United States are remarkable. So they will use nuts and bolts within the antitrust laws to kind of preserve the status quo and the independence and integrity. They may even come up with a clause to say MLB is incorporated in New York, so therefore it applies the New York law. So therefore it can use those kinds of laws to make its own judicial judgment in and that kind of stuff. So therefore, I think these are the loopholes that they're trying to kind of get rid of.
And Kurt Schilling says that the MLB decision to pull out All-Star game will backfire. I think there is some backfiring already happening, backlash happening. Just yesterday I saw that Ilhan Omar was saying one thing, and you touched upon it. So there is some disagreements, grumblings going on already, sir.
Well, I think, look, at the end of the day, it is an agenda between a small minority within the Democratic Party. We have not seen the center voice from Democratic Party rise. Historically, in United States, Democrats have taken a central position, and that is why there is a vast following. We have not seen the emergence of this. Right now, you are seeing the left rhetoric voice, as well as the left liberals, which is media. A combination of media, bunch of vested groups, as well as this progressive is kind of leading the agenda. Sooner or then later, we're going to see the voice of reason from the Democratic Party emerge, right? Because there have been, and then that we have not seen as yet. We have not seen.
And looks like the Iron Lady is not speaking anymore. I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi.
Iron Lady is not, because she's got all the agenda. She's got election, she's got the stimulus bill, and she's got unfettering access of people coming through the borders, and all the kind of stuff. So she's kind of smiling on her way. She also got her Silicon Valley subway near her home. So therefore, you can't complain.
Biden calls Ukraine as Russia builds up massive troops along the border of Ukraine. So this is a new development. So what do you make of it, sir?
What is going on here is that everybody knows that Hunter Biden and Trump Biden and Burisma and their proximity to Ukraine, it's like a pet peeve project. So the story is that you just stir the hornet's nest. So what has happened? Hey, you want to talk to Ukraine, and without me, who the hell you think you are? So so they have outside the Ukraine. There was no build-up outside Ukraine for the last 4 years. Everything was kind of going on. Russians were doing their own kind of stuff, and now no more Navalny. Now all of a sudden you have Russia, Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, Russia, China, these kinds of issues. So there's a build-up, unwarranted build-up, and I think we covered this last week. There was this unwarranted U.S. sea shield passing through the Black Sea and Bosphorus Sea, and people are Russians, and then they're telling the Russians, this is not your lake, and so Russia says, you're coming to my territory and trying to tell me who I am. Okay, so they're saying we'll show you action.
And in world news, Japan's prime minister aims to calm China-Taiwan tensions on his first U.S. visit. So Suga is coming to the United States, and what kind of message is he bringing, you think, sir?
I think that he is trying to bring a message which is to say he can handle China. I think that's the message that he is trying to, because if there is a we'll touch on the next topic. The story is that if there's a confrontation, he's trying to give some kind of an assurance, notwithstanding the fact that there are a lot of feathers ruffled around the thing. But Suga, it depends. Today you get one statement. Yesterday you got another statement. Tomorrow maybe we'll give another statement. So he's a little bit kind of rattled as to what exactly is going on, especially around the South China and the Chinese incursions. He believes he can tackle two things. One, he believes he can tackle China. He also believes he can work with the Americans and the South Koreans, which South Koreans and Japanese working with the Americans to denuclearize the Korean Sea is not a very trivial matter. So he has a challenge on his hand. In my view, we will discuss two things: strategic partnership around this chip and rare metals and investments and so on. I think the second is going to be what is going to be the defense strategy between US and Japan in terms of defending Taiwan and in terms of defending the South China Sea.
And Chinese aircraft carrier and 5 ships pass Okinawa on their way to Pacific. So the China also is beginning to rattle its saber.
Indeed, I want to read this because I can't kind of remember every piece of this. 1 minute. So this is it is Chinese aircraft carrier on Saturday, Liaoning, and 5 escort vessels have passed through the key waterway of the Japan on the way to Pacific Ocean. Okay, this is the joint staff of the Japanese Defense Ministry. Look at the Armageddon. The carrier group was spotted around 8 a.m. Saturday, 470 kilometers from Nagasaki, okay, prefecture, not too far from the Danjo Islands. Okay, this is the first time since April 2020 that Liaoning has been known to use and pass through this waterway. Accompanying this Liaoning were Ren Hai class stealth guided missile destroyer, 2 Luoyang 3 class guided missile destroyers, 1 Jiang Kai 2 multi-role frigate, and 1 Fuyu class combat support ship. It's an Armageddon. We can put this link and this photographs of this Armageddon passing through. So the Japanese side, what did they do? They deployed a destroyer called Suzuki, a P-1 maritime patrol aircraft, and a P-3C anti-submarine warfare patrol aircraft to gather information and monitor what exactly these Chinese vessels are doing. So this is one of the most first provocative kind of moves around this region. So we should share these links and the photographs because so people can get a view as to what exactly is the issue. So this is
and we will do that, sir. We will do that. And in other news, Philippines defense chief says China looks to occupy more of South China Sea as a confrontation looms. So Philippines also is now expressing some concern, sir.
Philippines, because they are, I think we discussed it quite a few times, throughout the DGI in the last few days, which is they had their eyes set on Scarborough Shoals plus that 9-point line. And I think somehow they want to get closer and closer because the reason is very sensitive to them. The Spratly Islands that they occupy is very proximate to Philippines, which has been contested very heavily by Philippines, and ICJ gave a ruling which has not been followed.
And US-Iran discussions to commence in Middle East. So this is what we talked about in the last few episodes. So what do you expect, especially given that rockets on midday launch land just outside the US contracts housing near Iraqi military base? So Iran is also doing this, and they also want to sit down and talk peace with US.
Well, I think that what is going to happen is they're going to sit down and basically say, look, we have a deal with China, we have a deal with Russia, we'll do a deal with Turkey. Okay, what the hell are you going to do? Are you going to United Nations? I have got people in United Nations. I'm covered. Okay, so therefore I'm done. Okay, I'm going to go. Okay, what do you want to do now? So you're not going to allow me to control. Okay, so then what these little puppets in Washington, D.C., will kind of say, oh, Israel, will you now be sympathetic to Palestinians? So that's the kind of the soft pedal compromise. The next compromise will be that leave every place, leave Iraq, leave this, leave that, leave it to us, because that is the broad kind of the Shia territory. So we're not going to see much come out. This is a very weak position. Only nation which has put something on this is France. France has told Iran, do not be belligerent and do not be misguided. Okay, be careful that you don't kind of, you want to come mainstream, you want to do things, make sure that you are compliant. To some extent, if the regimes are, if the what you call as the rebels or whatever these fellows are called, if they have their say, I think Iran is a trading nation, so there could be some hope for some kind of normalcy to kind of be restored. But you know that that is not the case because there are a lot of zealots who are running around.
With so many moving parts, it's difficult to say who's orchestrating all these things, like what Iran is saying, what China is doing, what Turkey is doing, and what Russia is doing. So, one shudders to, think that all these are nuclear nations. What exactly are they thinking? And sir, this next item is going to probably get, your shackles up again. US shuts one secret Guantanamo Bay prison unit and moves the prisoners. Is the next Arab Spring and mayhem in the offing like the great Obama did? And what about the Yazdis? Do Yazdis not fit as refugees under the American refugee calendar?
No, I think I used the word very subtly here, which is to say that he came to power, which is to say all the thing that was going on Guantanamo Bay was illegal and it's not human rights compliance, etc. The world recognized him, rewarded him, etc. But what followed was a monumental catastrophe of human disaster. The world has witnessed and the world has seen. You saw all these fellows go back and occupy territories right from Iraq, and they conducted their own kind of trade right from Mosul. Mosul was almost kind of completely unreachable. Between Mosul to Kirkuk, it became kind of a territory going into the northern Syrian region. Okay, and Peshmergas had to fight them. But when they overran, the world has forgotten. There's a community called Yazdis. The amount of suffering that the Yazdis went through, their communities are shattered. They were all became slaves and so on and so forth. Not anyone in the world talks about the plight, the community, and support either for the Peshmergas or for the Yazdis, most notably Yazdis. They made a few cases and scenes and brought them and showed them, but the fact is that they remain completely neglected. I call them as the dispensable community in global politics. We are willing to put up with it because we want to please either one side of this or one side of this in the process. So it's very worrying that what's going to happen when this is shut down. Where are these guys going? Are they going to Cuba? No, they're not going to Cuba. They're probably going somewhere else.
And I'm going to take things a little faster, sir. We have a lot to cover. Blinken seeks equal treatment of Palestinians from Israel. And trouble in Jordan. Jordan half-prince says he's confined and lashes out at authorities. This is Prince Hamza we're talking about. What is going on in Jordan now?
I think there seems to be some political battle between the half-brother and the crown prince. Usually these things kind of surface in that part of the world. And I'm sure that they will, I don't know, there's a lot of, more truth will come to be known. But it is also worrying because that's also closer to the Jordan-Palestine kind of territory.
And in Indian news, Chinese telecom gear maker Huawei will not be in any of the government 4G or 5G tenders. India's foreign exchange reserves crossed 101 billion in fiscal year 21, and it is likely to cross 640 billion in fiscal year 2022. So this is your projections, and looks like that's coming right along.
It is. I think that the 750 billion is the target. I think that the way India is building up its kind of reserves as is required, especially reducing the net difference between the imports and the exports. They're really kind of building a very good set of reserves. I think we have discussed what the reserves are. This augurs well for India as a nation.
And in naval exercises in the Bay of Bengal, India has commenced doing this Indo-Pacific strategic interest, and looks like now it's in the second day today, sir?
It is the third day.
Third day, okay.
Yeah, Saturday, 4th, 5th today is this, Saturday is, they started on 3rd, 4th, 5th.
So third day, right.
Yeah.
So, Malaysia Air Force team is likely to visit India soon to assess the suitability of the LCA Tejas fighter jets. So now Indian fighter jets are finding a market globally.
And I think that this is, you're covered extensively with so many people on India's kind of defense capabilities, defense production capabilities, all kind of augurs. The Malaysia-India relationship, they must reset the course because there's a lot of commonality between Singapore, Malaysia, and kind of India. Historical. So I am glad that they can, they're moving in the right direction, and hopefully there'll be a much wiser strategic partnership than what we have seen under Mahathir Mohamad.
And viewers, I'm going to give you a quick global COVID update as global cases keep rising. Bear with me while I bring up the graphic here. And the graphic is up now. You can see that this is the situation today. And we have a total of 131 million cases and 2.85 million deaths. And in the reported cases and deaths, you can see that US leads the way, followed by Brazil and India. And these are some of the highest in terms of numbers. However, there is an interesting statistic that will blow your mind away. Look at the cases per 100,000 for India. It is 921. And look at the deaths per 100K for India, 12. So clearly India is doing something right, because that is how you have to do it, rather than saying the numbers are big, the numbers are big. But what you have to see is how many has it affected, and how effectively has the country dealt with it. Sir, are you able to read the numbers, sir?
Yeah. I'm able to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And here, this is sort of like how this thing spread. You can take a quick look at it as the numbers start scrolling on your screen. And you can see the world getting populated, how this COVID spread and how it has wreaked havoc. And as you can see, clearly the bubble size is bigger in United States. Perhaps it was aimed at United States. I don't know, because we still don't know how this virus started. Although people keep saying that it is most likely this, most likely that, there is no most definitely this. So that's where things are stuck. And you can see that the number is inching up very, very fast here. But you get the idea on how the COVID spread. And it's interesting to see that if you look at the equatorial band, meaning like all the countries in and around the equator, the impact has not been that much. What do you think, sir?
Well, I think that there are two or three reasons for this. They say that there is a natural immunity that is inbuilt into some of the communities. So therefore, they seem to be, especially with warm and hot and kind of humid kind of climates, this virus seems to be not very susceptible to the heat. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is the food habits. The food habits also acts as a natural kind of defensive mechanism, because the virus is about, one of the treatments that people give for virus is the immunoboosters, because your immunity levels are very low. So maybe they're getting that from the food as well. And I think the third I would say is that they probably have followed the habits far more stringently relative to many of the other people. Most of these things is because people have not followed discipline and people have been indisciplined. That is why you have seen the rise in cases.
And you can see the heat map on who is suffering the most in terms of in continents, Asia, Europe, North America, and so on. And then you have the daily reported deaths by the country. Recently, India has had a spurt. That's why you see India has a higher number, 465. And also Italy is again continuing to be very high, and United States is another one, and of course Brazil. Brazil is the most in terms of number of deaths, 2,747. So now if you look at the case growth rates, you have a country by country split here, but overall you see that the growth of cases is the fastest in United States. And we are going to give you a link to this interactive chart, and you can take a look at it yourself. So with that, I bring this to end. We can continue back to our normal course of news. And the next topic that I want to talk about is markets, sir. US market futures point to a higher open with the SOW up 237 points, S&P up 22 points. So what is the market looking at as positive business, sir? Positive news, sir?
The market is looking at very positive on three fronts. One, I think that the job numbers that came in at 917,000 gave positive hope in terms of that the regeneration has started, the post-impact, post-COVID. Many of the Republican states have started to lift kind of the sanction, lift the restrictions. So there's a volume of activity that is beginning to trigger. Number two. Number three, I think that we have crossed 100 million. People are slowly beginning to get confident that the recovery will happen. And it's only a matter of time before this vaccination kind of, vaccination issue is resolved and as we ramp up. So there is a general positive momentum besides the stimulus checks.
And the crude now is down to $60.40. So there is a downward trend there. That's a good sign. And 10-year Treasury is now trading at 1.679%, well below 1.7%. The 10-year Treasury rate, what is the importance of that, sir?
The importance of that is inflation. So when the rates go up, that means that there is an inflationary cycle, an inflationary tendency. When you have inflation, then the rates go up. Right, so that is what it is. You can't have a 0% rate and a 10-year Treasury at 1.7% or 2%. We predicted this, that by end of the year we expect it to be 2%, but they're kind of the treasurer as well as the Fed governor. They're saying that the recovery has to be deep-rooted amongst the communities. So they're going to hold the rates while they continue to make sure that the recovery is full steam rather than half steam.
And with that, we bring to close our today's episode. We'll be back again tomorrow, bright and early. Do subscribe to this alternate YouTube channel of PGurus, and we'll be back on the main channel from next week. But this week, you will be getting this only on this channel, and we will be publishing the links in our social media pages. So please do visit us. And those of you who have friends and family who follow this news, please spread the word. Thank you very much, and namaskar.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day and look forward to a great week.